The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Could it be? But me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So, Commanders embark upon their first of two joint practices this preseason, one with the New York Jets that we're about to talk about tonight, and then next week against the Miami Dolphins before their second preseason game. And I can't think of two better teams for the Commanders to go up against in joint practice settings this preseason because of what these two teams in particular, the challenges that they pose, right? For us as a team, we need to really figure out what we are offensively, specifically up front along the offensive line, among other places. And then defensively, I've been talking about this. I've been touting this all offseason about how good I think this defense is going to be. It's going to be the catalyst. They're going to drive the engine. You know, they're going to keep us in ball games. We may not win them, but they're going to give us a chance in the fourth quarter of a lot of games this year. They're going to create turnovers, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if that's going to be the case, then we need to be tested this preseason. These are going to be good barometers, I feel like, for specific position groups that need the work. And, you know, what's interesting is I don't know from a roster standpoint right now if the Commanders are good enough to test themselves, right? Like, I think our defensive line is good. It isn't great. So is our offensive line really being tested the way, and when I say offensive line and the defensive line, I'm talking about the edge rushers. Our edge rushers aren't great, okay? We don't have one guy right now, I don't think, that we can just line up and say, hey, go beat that guy one-on-one. I don't think we have that guy on the roster right now. So we're going to have to scheme it up, and Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn are going to have to get creative, and they're going to have to find ways to manufacture pressure. So when I say that, is Brandon Coleman and Andrew Wiley really getting the type of work that they truly need to assess where they are? I don't know if they really truly are. Are our cornerbacks very good? Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Are our receivers getting the type of work that they need? Are they seeing the level of quality that they will be seeing on a weekly basis around the league? I'm not sure about that, right? So I'm saying all of this to say these two joint practices, one against the Jets on starting tomorrow and then next week against the Dolphins, I think are vital for a team trying to figure some things out. So I really like that they're doing these joint practices, and I like who they're coming against. You're not going to find a more dynamic and explosive offense in the league than the Miami Dolphins. We saw that last season for much of the year. Like, if we want to find out if this defense is any good, if these corners are any good, what better receivers to go up against than Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, right? That's a great duo to have to go against. And they have Odell Beckham Jr. I don't know if he'll be healthy and practicing by the time we get to them. But if he is, all the better. The more the merrier. I'm actually upset that Hassan Reddick is holding out. He would have been great practice. He was a thorn in our side last year and kicked our ass the last 2 years in Philadelphia. I would have loved to have seen him out there giving Brandon Coleman some great reps. All in all, that Dolphins offense is the perfect offense for us to go against, to really test this defense, to find out where they are. Same could be said for Aaron Rodgers, right? I love the fact that we're getting, Aaron Rodgers in this joint practice here that we're going to talk about tonight, and his ability to, manipulate defenses, put the ball right where it needs to be, back shoulder fades, that sort of thing. They're going to get great practice. They're going to get great work going up against Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson. And, they got a rookie out there, Malachi Corley, who, is also a guy that can be problematic. And I know Jets fans probably can't stand Alan Lazard after last year, but Alan Lazard is a different animal when Aaron Rodgers is at quarterback. He's a whole different player. So Alan Lazard will look like Alan Lazard this season if Aaron Rodgers is under center. Without Aaron Rodgers, Alan Lazard looks like Nathaniel Hackett as an offensive coordinator without Aaron Rodgers, right? Null and void. So he's going to look different. And Mike Williams was just activated today. Now, again, does that mean he participates in the joint practice tomorrow? Maybe. Maybe. My guess is no. But I'd love to see him out there. Another target for Aaron Rodgers to throw the football to. More tests for our defense. So I feel like that Jets defense in particular is going to be a great barometer for our offense. And that Dolphins offense is going to be a great barometer for our defense. So I love the two teams that we're having joint practices against. That said, before we get into the meat and potatoes of why I brought you here tonight, I do want to talk about a couple of house cleaning items, if you will. I like to call them house cleaning items. Okay. So first things first, the Commanders, as we know yesterday, they cut two players, Alex Okingblue with the injury designation and also tight end Ammani Rogers. They signed an offensive lineman, and that meant they still had one more spot available to sign someone. You release two guys, you can sign two guys. So today they signed tackle Alex Taylor. Again, much like Taylor Stallworth, who they signed, and Rasmussen, who they signed yesterday as an interior offensive lineman, these guys are just here to help us get through camp, okay? Camp is just like the regular season. It's a war of attrition. You're just trying to get to the starting blocks with all of your stuff. And these guys are being brought in to take some of the reps off of some of the players that are here currently. And so the more bodies you have, the more pressure you can take off of some of the guys that you have here already. And I'm not just talking about Andrew Wiley. Alex Taylor isn't going to help you take reps off of Andrew Wiley, right? But what he will do is take some of the reps off of, say, one of your backup tackles who may have to go, who may be playing more reps because Andrew Wiley is not in there. So now instead of Trent Scott playing on that second unit, he's playing with the first unit. So now the third unit tackle has to bump up to the second unit. And so now you need another guy, right? So that you don't have guys taking more reps than they need to, and then you're wearing them down. So then an Alex Taylor comes in, and now he can take some of those third team tackle reps, right? So just look at it as another guy being brought in here to get us to the finish line, okay? But quickly on the psyche of a guy that's being brought in, because some of you may be thinking to yourself, why would you even want to come into a camp knowing you have no chance to make the team? You just never know what's going to happen, right? You get to a team, you get in there, you're not going to make the team, more likely than not, but you can make an impression, right? You'll get some opportunity to maybe play in the preseason. Maybe you show out and you end up getting on someone else's practice squad, or you end up getting an opportunity to be on somebody else's team, or you work with the coach this year, you get cut, but the coach was impressed with you, right? Say an assistant offensive line coach is impressed with you, but he doesn't have enough say-so and pull to get you onto the roster, you get cut. Next year, that assistant offensive line coach gets an offensive line coach gig somewhere else, and he remembers you and he says, hey, call up his agent. I want him to come in here and be with us for camp and give him a shot to make the team. You just never know, right? So more importantly, did you see where Ammani Rogers landed? Did you see where he landed? Ain't that about a bitch? Yeah, I know. Now, I will say this. For those of you who aren't aware, Ammani Rogers signed yesterday with the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay? Go figure, right? I told you, nobody knows your stuff more than teams in the division. Nobody's eyeballing your stuff more than a team in the division because they get to see it. They get to see it up close and personal twice a year. So nobody knows your stuff more than family members. So, of course, the Eagles would be sitting there waiting in the weeds. Oh, y'all cutting Ammani Rogers, eh? Hey, Howie, they cut Ammani Rogers. Go scoop him up. So, of course, he's now in camp with the Eagles. I don't see him making their team, but he could be on their practice squad. And if he gets back to the level that he was at in his rookie season in 2022, who knows? He could be a threat with them, say, next year, right? There's 7 tight ends in camp right now with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's not going to make their team, I don't think. But that athleticism, if given time to develop, who knows, right? We'll see. Not going to make too much of it, but damn it, man. Of all places he could go, right? Of all the places he could have gone, he could have went anywhere. Hell, Dax Milne just went to the Raiders, right? Take your ass to the Raiders, right? Go play for the Tennessee Titans anywhere but in the division. But of course, that's how these things go. That's how the cookie crumbles, right? Anyway. I digress. So, I want to talk about the joint practice that is on the horizon for tomorrow. This is a big one because the hype train is starting to gain steam, right? A lot of coal being thrown into the hype train and a lot of toot-toots going on right now. A lot of tooting of the horn right now from fans. And I'm seeing a lot of excitement. A lot of people like, yo, I'm going to sip slow. When you tell me you're going to sip slow, but then there's a conjunction in there, you're trying to convince yourself to sip slow, but you really want to guzzle. That's what you really want. You really want to start just shoveling down what they're serving up. And I get it. This has been a delicious offseason. Training camp has been even more delectable. I get it. I understand why you want to fill your cup up to the brim and chug it and get more. But I caution you to just relax. 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 Okay? And let's see how everything goes. And just enjoy the process. And this is a part of the process, right? So, when I start feeling listy, I start listing things. And my lists are usually comprised of 7 items. Tonight is no different. So I'm going to give you my top 7 biggest things to look for, or battles, competitions, matchups, what may have you, whatever you want to call them, things that I will be tracking during the joint practices, seeing what the beat reporters have to say, seeing what's being put out there, what this guy is doing, what this positional group has done, who made this play, who made that play, et cetera, on both sides. I'll be checking Jets beat writers and Commanders beat writers for all the information that we can get tomorrow, because obviously this is not in Washington. It'd be nice if the Jets did what the Ravens did, even though it really kind of sucked because when the Ravens did it last year, they streamed the joint practice, but they just focused on the Ravens offense essentially the entire time. So you really didn't get to see much of what was going on. If that's the case, I'd rather just not watch. You just really can't see what the hell's going on. So at the end of the day, I'm going to be scouring social media tomorrow for as much information as we can get. And then, we'll get like John Keim doing his podcast afterwards, or whomever doing, their podcast. You'll get some articles written about what happened. And, eventually we'll get all the information, piece it together. And then once I get enough information, I'm coming to you guys, right? I'm coming to you and we're going to talk about it. So let's talk about the 7 biggest matchups that I'm looking for going into this joint practice with the Jets. So coming in at number 7, the Commanders' defensive line versus the Jets' offensive line. This is a revamped Jets offensive line. They traded for Morgan Moses. They signed Tyron Smith. So right there, they have 2 veteran tackles to protect Aaron Rodgers. They signed John Simpson in free agency. And, they got Joe Tipman at center. They drafted Olu Fashanu in the first round this past year. Don't even know where he's playing, if he's starting, if they kicked him inside the guard, if he's playing tackle, but he's going to be backing up these 2 guys that they brought in as veterans. Whatever the case may be, they have a bunch of stuff. One of our old friends, Wes Schweitzman. Wes Schweitzer, excuse me. Wes Schweitzer is out there with the Jets as well. So they got a bunch of guys along that offensive line. They're trying to fine tune things up front so that they can protect Aaron Rodgers this season. And I want to see how our defensive line does against their offensive line. If the defensive line is supposed to be one of our strengths, specifically the interior, then I need to see and hear about the interior defensive line, or just the D-line in general, having some wins against this Jets offensive line. And I'm assuming you're going to get some one-on-one battles, right? Where you got some one-on-one matchups. Then you're going to get the team periods, and each coach is going to have certain things they want to work on. So you might get, 2-minute offense. You might get some red zone work. They might try to run the football. I need the D-line to step up and shut that down, right? They may try to run 4-minute offense. They may try to, situations like 3rd and 7, things of that nature. I need our defensive line to wreak havoc. I don't expect them to win on every single rep. I don't expect them to absolutely blow up the joint practice, but I do need to hear that they won their fair share of the battles and that their presence was felt. They can't touch Rodgers, but I'd love for them to disrupt Rodgers and make it a little tough on him. So I need to hear that the defensive line, because this Jets offensive line is a work in progress. It's not this cohesive unit that's been playing together for 3 years that they feel really good about. They're mixing and matching parts. Tyron Smith is 87 years old. Morgan Moses is 85 years old. And then you got a bunch of guys that are mix and match pieces on the interior. I do like Elijah Vera Tucker, though. He's really good. So all in all, I want to see us go in there and take advantage of a group that has just been thrown together, essentially, for lack of a better term. This is a new group. Go in there and bless them. Baptize them. They're veterans. They've been around the block. They know what the hell they're doing. So it's not going to be easy. But we're going to hopefully throw some twists and some stunts. We're not going to do anything exotic. But if you get opportunities, one-on-one, et cetera, you run some twists, some stunts, some games, and things of that nature up front, wreak havoc, right? Number 6, I want to see these Commanders running backs versus the Jets linebackers. Again, assuming that they're going to be some one-on-one drills, pass protection, running routes against these guys, things of that nature. Then you get into the team drills. You may end up one-on-one matched up with a Jet linebacker in space. If you're Austin Eckler or you're Brian Robinson Jr., I need you to get open and give Jaden Daniels an opportunity to get you the football. I want to see how these running backs do in practice. They've had a really strong camp to this point, have Eckler and Brian Robinson Jr. And both of them are really excited about the roles that they've been tasked with this offseason by Cliff Kingsbury. And, Brian Robinson Jr. is so excited about, the upcoming season and the role that he will have in this offense and that he'll play. Austin Eckler has a chip on his shoulder. Everyone's saying he's washed. Last year was a down year, and Eckler is getting close to the end, and he wants to prove that there's more left in the tank. So this is a good test. The Jets have arguably the most dynamic and athletically gifted linebacker core in the NFL. CJ Mosley is a stud and is still playing at a high level. And one of my favorite linebackers, not named Frankie Louie, to watch from an energy and a speed standpoint playing the game right now is Quincy Williams. He plays with a level of abandon and recklessness that makes me feel like I'm watching Frankie Louie on steroids, essentially. All right. This dude is ridiculous. Is Quincy Williams. He flies around and hits anything that's moving, including his own teammates. He's one of those types of players. So I want to see how they do against this Jets linebacking core. Can they continue the strong camp that they've had? Can they continue to run the football with veracity? Can they continue to catch it out of the backfield? Can they stand up in pass protection drills? Things of that nature. I'm looking for all of that from these running backs in this joint practice. Number 5. Commanders wide receivers versus the Jets cornerbacks. So, and really you could just say DBs if you like, but really the corners are what I'm concerned with. We don't really know what the hell we're going to get out of our receivers this year. Now, do we? We know what we're going to get out of Terry. We're hoping Jahan Dotson steps up and announces himself as a true number 2 wide receiver in this league. He has yet to do that. We could sit here and make excuses, and we could talk about all the reasons as to why that has not come to fruition. And there are some reasons, and then there are some excuses, and there's a fine line. Whatever the case may be, he's got a fresh start, new organization, new coaching staff, new offense, new quarterback. Let's see what you got. There's a refocus, and there's a new emphasis being put on getting guys like Jahan Dotson involved and getting him the football. So can he step up? Dyami Brown, Luke McCaffrey, Olamide Zaccheaus. Who's going to step up? We really don't even know who the third receiver is right now. We looked at the unofficial Depi yesterday. Olamide Zaccheaus was one of the 3 starting receivers. So we really don't know right now what's what. Dyami Brown's been taking a ton of snaps with the ones. So I expect him to be in that mix. Luke McCaffrey is coming along. He's a rookie. Don't put too much on his plate. So many of you just assumed, well, he's our number 3 receiver. Oh, really? He's a 3rd-round pick. He's not a 2nd-round pick. He's not a 1st-round pick. He's a 3rd-round pick. Hold your horses. Pump your brakes. Drive slow. Okay? I'm not telling you that a 3rd-round pick can't come in here and have an immediate impact. I'm just telling you it's a lot less likely that a 3rd-round pick. Terry did it, though, right? He's not Terry. So let's just get that straight right now. He's not Terry. Okay? So I'd feel a little bit different if he were a first or a second round pick. He's still a day 2 pick, but he's a third round pick. So we'll see, right? But ultimately, the Jets have dogs at corner. Okay. We know about Sauce Gardner. Okay. So if we're getting one-on-one matchups, can Terry get open on Sauce? I want to see. I want to know. Can Jahan get open on Sauce? Any of the other receivers? Olamide Zaccheaus, De'Ami Brown, Jamison Crowder, Luke McCaffrey. Can anybody get free on Sauce Gardner? DJ Reed is really good. Okay. They got a nice little 1-2 punch out there in New York, which is part of the reason why their defense is so good. Their corners are very, very good. Can you get open on DJ Reed? Can you separate? Can you go get the football? I want to see. I want to know. Then as you get into the team periods and the Jets start playing man coverage, can you get open? Can you separate? Can you give Jaden Daniels a target that he can get the football to? Michael Carter II is also in that secondary at the cornerback position. They've got a wealth of talent back there, and this is going to be a good challenge for these receivers. This will be a good challenge for these receivers. Terry got loose on them last year when we got down by 20 points, 27-7. And Jacoby Brissett came in the game, and then Terry just started going off, kind of like how he did against the Rams, right? So we'll see what happens. Really interested to see who steps up, who starts to separate themselves in that wide receiver group. This is a good test for them. We really don't have a ton of separate. I've already told you what I think of the receiver room. I think there are 5 guys that have already pretty much solidified a spot on this roster, and there's 1 spot available on the back end, but we can't be certain of that. I feel good about it. Terry, Jahan, Luke, De'Ami, and Olamide Zaccheaus. I feel good about those 5 being on this roster. But again, anything's possible. Outside of the top 3 of Terry, Jahan, and Luke, who they spent a 3rd-round pick on, no one is absolutely safe, but I feel really good about De'Ami being on this roster. Same with Olamide Zaccheaus. How about you just go out and fortify your roster spot by not only playing well in this joint practice, but in the preseason game? Because outside, well, Terry and Jahan are going to play in that preseason game because Jaden Daniels is playing in that game. And if you're putting Jaden out there, then you're putting the starting offensive unit out there with him. So don't just go out there in the joint practice and make it happen, because more likely than not, you're not going to see Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed out there once you play the preseason game. So take advantage of those reps in the joint practice. And then when you go out there for the preseason game and you're seeing backups, cook their ass, right? That's what we should be expecting from these guys. That's what I'm hoping we get from these guys. Number 4, Commanders' interior offensive line against the Jets' interior defensive line. Now, this is a battle, okay? Because we've got a revamped interior offensive line, stands for Sam Cosmi. Tyler Biadasz coming over from Dallas. The knock on him, Cowboys fans keep telling me, they can't wait to tell me every time, oh, you got Tyler Biadasz? Wait till he sees a stud that can collapse the pocket. He's going to get his ass blown up. Okay. You told me that 15 times. I get it. He doesn't sit down and anchor well. Guys with sand in their trunks, and guys with power and the ability to dump truck a center is going to move this guy. That's what I've been told over and over and over again. Cool. Let's see what he does, because the Jets have guys that can move grown men against their will. Quinnen Williams is a problem. A big, big problem. I don't know if you watched Hard Knocks last year, training camp with the New York Jets. I did. Quinnen Williams single-handedly destroyed the joint practice with the Carolina Panthers. If you recall, you know you can't hit the quarterback. But he got to Bryce Young at least 9 times. He kept count of it, what he called sacks, because of course you can't hit the quarterback. So he would run past the quarterback, either touch him or he would be like, that's a sack. And he counted 12 sacks, did Quinnen Williams in that practice. 12. Some of them I was like, yeah, you probably wouldn't have got there that time. But like 8 or 9 of them were legitimate wins immediately. That would have been a sack, or Bryce Young would have had to throw it away. He is capable of wrecking practice. I've seen him do it. Javon Kinlaw came over from San Francisco. He's reunited with his former defensive coordinator, who's now the head coach of the Jets, obviously, in Robert Saleh. So we'll see what he's able to do. They got Solomon Thomas. They got a bunch of guys up there. Tanzel Smart is a guy that I really like, who plays hard. They're going to give us work. This is going to be a great test for an interior group that's new. I just talked about the Jets kind of putting the pieces of the puzzle together. So are we. Literally 3 out of the 5 offensive line spots are going to be different from a season ago. 2 of them are on the interior. So this is going to be a good test for our interior offensive line. How does Tyler Biadasz, how does Nick Allegretti hold up? I don't worry about Sam Cosmi. How do these other 2 hold up? We're going to find out. This is a good test for them. This is the best test that they're going to get this preseason. Better than they'll get against the Dolphins. Number 3. Commanders cornerbacks versus Jets wide receivers and Aaron Rodgers and A-Rod. Much has been made about these cornerbacks. When we talked about the strengths and weaknesses of the team prior to training camp, and when I would ask people, what position group are you most confident in, and conversely, are you most concerned with? The easy, low-hanging fruit answer this offseason was, I feel really confident about the linebackers. Of course you do. We got a future first-ballot Hall of Famer in Bobby Wagner, and most of us think Frankie Louvu is going to wreck shop. I told you, I think he's got Pro Bowl season written all over him, and I wouldn't be shocked if he's in the discussion for All-Pro. That's how highly I think of Frankie Louvu and what I think he's going to do in a Dan Quinn, Joe Witt Jr. coached defense. That said, conversely, when I would ask that question, what are you concerned with? The first position group they would go to outside of offensive line, of course, cornerback. And for good reason. Okay. So in camp, the corners haven't been terrible. They haven't been great. Every time we look up, Terry's catching a deep ball. Who's he catching it on? Emmanuel Forbes Jr. He's not in terrible position, but you don't have to be in terrible position to get beat. Benjamin St-Juste, by all accounts, having a strong camp. I told you I like Michael Davis a lot. They're asking him to press guys. If they're asking him to press, that means unless you have safety help over the top, You are putting yourself at risk. Michael Davis is fast. Michael Davis is tall. Michael Davis is long. Pause. However, he can get beat. I love him. Love Mikey Samer still. Loved him at UW, or excuse me, University of Michigan. Love him even more that he's a part of the family. Rave of reviews for Mike Samer still all training camp long. I have no doubts that this kid is going to be really good. One of 3 rookies who currently is listed as a starter on the unofficial DEPI. But he's still a rookie, and he can get blessed and baptized. This is going to be good work because Aaron Rodgers isn't going to cut anybody any breaks. Oh, you a rookie? Well, let's try you on for size. Let's see what you about. Oh, y'all pressing my man Garrett Wilson at the line of scrimmage? All right, Garrett, you know what to do. I'm anxious to see how these corners, Emmanuel Forbes Jr., Michael Davis, Benjamin St-Juste, and Mike Samer still hold up against Aaron Rodgers and the cast of characters that they're going to throw out on the football field. Garrett Wilson. I don't know if Mike Williams is practicing. I pray he's practicing. We need all the work we can get. Okay, he was just cleared to get back on the field today. I'm hoping that that was by design because they want him out there for the joint practice tomorrow. I hope that was by design that they cleared him today. I can't say that that's the case. One can only hope. Okay, Allen Lazard is going to be a problem because Aaron Rodgers is at quarterback. You have the rookie Malachi Corley and a slew of other receivers that are there. How are we going to hold up against Aaron Rodgers and that sharp mind of his, that insanely accurate arm of his, and the cerebral nature of which he plays the position with? Now, he's still working out the kinks with these receivers. He's still trying to get on the same page. Last week, he had a meltdown at practice where he snapped on the team and said, this shit isn't good enough. He did it last year too. It's not new, okay? He snapped on the team last year when he thought they had a horse shit practice. This is his move, okay, to motivate them. I don't want them getting their rocks off against us. I don't want them elevating their confidence against us. I don't want them coming out of this joint practice saying, oh yeah, our shit is tight. I need them to come out of this saying, hey, we got a lot of work to do. We've been talking about ball is life. Go get you some. Go get 1 or 2 of them off Aaron. Go get 1 or 2 off of his backup, Tyrod Taylor. Go get you some. We got to stop talking about it and do it. That's what our defensive coordinator, Joe Witt Jr. said. He said, words is just words. That's bullshit. We preach ball is life. We need to live it. They got food on their plate. We starving. Let's go eat. Well, let's start eating now. No time like the present, right? I'm dying to see what these corners are going to do against those receivers and Aaron Rodgers. Because some of our fears, some, not all, some of our fears might have come down. That fear factor might have come down a little bit about the corners. And you might be feeling, just somebody asked me the other day, are you feeling a little bit better about the corners? And I'm like, I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. I'll let you know in about 2 weeks how I feel about these corners, if I feel any better. Here's the start of that. Here's the start of that. Number 2. Jaden Daniels versus the Jets defense. Jaden Daniels versus the Jets defense. So Jaden has been outstanding, and I don't use that term loosely. He's been outstanding this camp. I mean, absolutely fantastic. Exceeded expectations. He's making checks at the line of scrimmage. He's calling out the plays in the huddle with confidence. He's getting them in and out of the huddle in a timely manner. He's been accurate with the football. His process has been great. There's been minimal mistakes. I haven't heard of a Jaden Daniels interception since like the second day of training camp, second or third day of training camp. Like, we were in day 10, okay? So the mistakes have been few and far between, and the process has been outstanding. They're raving about his process. Cliff Kingsbury just yesterday said, I don't know what this dude is doing at home, but his studying habits are off the charts because he gets here in the morning and we go over the install and he's got it down to a science and he wants more. That sounds spectacular. Wonderful. Excellent. Great. Brilliant. Even. But that was against our defense that you've seen over and over and over and over and over and over again. Now you're going to go up against one of the top defensive units in football and a diabolical defensive mind in Jeff Albrecht and Robert Saleh. Now, they're not going to get too extravagant. They're not going to be out here, doing cat blitzes and, all kinds of crazy different looks and guys coming from all over the place. They're going to keep it pretty simple. But you are a rookie, and they are going to do some things here and there to see if they can confuse you a little bit. I'm more involved in what the process looks like for Jaden Daniels. Less about the results right now. Just the process. Did he go where he needed to go? Did he go to the right place with the football? Did he get through his reads in a timely manner? Did he get to the check down? Was it not there and he got it down to the check down? Did he see the rush? Did he get out of there and pick up a gain of 4, right? I'm more obsessed with the process right now because everything else will take care of itself. If the process is good, the rest will follow with this kid. I'm convinced of it. I just need to know that he's seeing it correctly. This Jets defense is going to give him some fits because in practice, the first read might have been open. Terry might have gotten open. Zach Ertz might have gotten open. Jahan might have gotten open. So he didn't have to go through the first or the second to get to the third. This Jets defense is a little bit different. So that first read might not be there. That second read might not be open either. And you can't get stuck. And in camp, he's been sharp. The ball has come out. It's looked good. What happens when they take away your first, your second, and your third read? Are you going to get it to the check down? Or are you going to keep holding on to it and maybe take a sack? Right? This is what I'm looking for from Jaden. More specifically, it's the process. I want to hear that he was decisive, even if he made a mistake. He made it decisively, right? He went to the right place with the ball. The accuracy just might have been a little bit off. I want him to challenge Sauce Gardner. Oh, they think he can cover Terry one-on-one? Give Terry a shot one-on-one and let's see what happens. Right? They think that DJ Reed can erase Jahan Dotson. Let's give Jahan a chance. You're going to get one-on-ones in team drills and indie drills. I want to see how our guys find a way to get open. And if they don't get open, can Jaden thread the needle? Can he go through his progressions? Can he see the field? Can he understand what the defense is trying to do to him? And can he go to the right place with the football? Make the right decisions consistently over and over and over and over again. That's the key to playing the quarterback position. Making the right decision over and over and over and over again. If they're playing two high safeties and they're not letting you chuck it deep, you got to take what they're giving you underneath. They're giving you underneath. Take it. That's the right decision. You keep doing that over and over again. Eventually, either they're going to get nosy and come up. Now you're going to have a chance to take your shot deep, or you're going to keep matriculating that ball down the field. And eventually they're going to run out of real estate and you're going to get into the end zone, right? Just keep making the right decision over and over again. I want to see that from him in this practice. The first time going up against a different defense, a really good unit, I want to see his process. That's what I'm looking for. But the reason that this isn't number one is because no matter what happens with Jaden in this joint practice, he's going to be our starting quarterback no matter what, right? So he's not number one because he's not going to lose his job based off of his performance here or even next week. He's going to be QB1 come week 1 at Tampa Bay. No matter what. As long as he's healthy, he's going to be our starter come week 1. No questions asked. The next guy and my number one positional battle, matchup, whatever you want to call it, that I'm looking for, the number one thing I'm looking for from this joint practice is Brandon Coleman against the Jets defensive line. Their edge rushers, their defensive tackles, if they're running games and twists and stunts, whatever the case may be, one-on-one drill. He was undefeated in one-on-one drills against the likes of Dorrance Armstrong and Cleveland Farrell and Dante Fowler Jr. Of course you were. Good job, by the way. I'm not demeaning those guys, and I'm not trying to tell you that you did anything wrong, right? Because what is my mantra? What is my motto? All you can do is take care of what they put in front of you. Beat who they put in front of you. You can't worry about, is it good enough competition or this, that. If you play at Division III, dominate the competition in front of you. That's what I usually say. Dominate the competition in front of you. That's all you can control. All right? However you ended up in the Division III school, so be it. Dominate. They will find you. Dominate. If you're supposed to be at the NFL level, then you'll dominate that Division III competition. If you're a starting tackle in this league and a competent one, dominate the likes of Dante Fowler Jr., Cleveland Farrell, and Dorrance Armstrong Jr., which is what he just did. Now we're going to turn the level up. We're going to ratchet that up a bit. I'm so upset that there's no Hassan Reddick. That would have been a great test for this young fella. Instead, we'll have to settle for, Will McDonald IV and Johnson, right? Jermaine Johnson, who's very slippery. Jermaine Johnson is going to be his biggest test. Can he block Jermaine Johnson, a guy that bends very well around the corner, explosive speed? That's going to be the matchup that I'm going to be keying in on. This guy had 7.5 sacks last year in his second season in the league. He's just starting to scratch the surface, is Jermaine Johnson. That's the guy where if they say, hey, Brandon Coleman had a great one-on-one rep against Jermaine Johnson, I'm going to smile like a proud papa whose only son finally just made it. That's the one, right? And then as you get into the team drills and they start doing all of this, twists and stunts up front, you get into those one-on-one matchups. Can you consistently hold your own and give Jaden Daniels the time he needs to deliver the football? Consistency is the key. If Brandon Coleman goes out there and wets the bed, I won't say we are in trouble, okay? Because we do have a fallback plan. His name is Cornelius Lucas. So there is a plan B in place in the event that plan A does not successfully work out. But we really don't want to go to plan B. We want plan A to work. So the reason Coleman is first atop this list is because a poor showing here, coupled with a poor showing in the preseason game against, more likely than not, backups, will undo all of the goodwill he has built up, all of the equity that this man has put forth and built over the first 2 weeks of training camp. He's had 9 training camp practices, has Brandon Coleman. 9 of them. 7 of them he has been starting at left tackle and done a damn good job of doing it, which is what has landed him atop the first unofficial DEPI at the left tackle position. If he goes out here and he looks overmatched versus the Jets and then turns around and looks baffled in the preseason game, everything he's done, all the goodwill he's built up, all the equity that he's stacked on top of each other, all of it is gone, vanished, no longer exists. So unlike Jaden Daniels, who no matter what happens, he can go out there and throw 6 picks and look awful. Guess what? It's a part of the process. You live with it, you move on, you learn, and you grow, right? That's what we're going to say. That's what we're going to do. And that's how we're going to move forward. He's still going to be starting week 1. Brandon Coleman doesn't get it done. Changes might have to be made. So this is a lot bigger for him than it is Jaden Daniels. Mikey Sainristil could give up every single pass thrown to him, and he'll still be our starting nickel come week 1. That is not the case for Brandon Coleman. There's a lot more at stake for him during this joint practice, the subsequent preseason game, and then next week against the Dolphins than any other player really on the roster right now, if we're being honest with one another. He is one of the central focuses of this practice. If he comes out of this thing no worse for the wear, in terms of how the staff feels, in terms of how the beat reporters feel, because if they come back and they say, look, Brandon Coleman held his own, yes, that's all. You just checking the box. All right, young fella, I see you. If they come back and say, man, Brandon Coleman struggled today, how bad was it? Talk to me. That's what we're looking for. Hopefully, I don't expect him to win every single rep. It'd be nice, but I don't expect that. But what I do expect is for him to go out there, compete his ass off, and when they come back and they tell us about the day that Brandon Coleman turned in, he won more than he lost. He won more than he lost. I can live with that. Because as a rookie, I don't expect you to come in here. Again, not just any rookie, a 3rd-round rookie, okay? If he were elite, if he were Tristan Wirfs, he would have gone in the 1st round. I don't expect to have Tristan Wirfs-like results. I think that man gave up like 1 pressure in his rookie season or something crazy like that in the Tom Brady 2020 Super Bowl season with Tampa Bay at right tackle as a rookie. That's not what I'm expecting from Brandon Coleman, because we didn't draft Brandon Coleman 13th overall like the Bucks drafted Tristan Wirfs 13th overall. But what I am expecting is for him to hold his own out there. And so we'll see how that goes. And keep in mind that Coleman did not practice in day 10 of training camp. We don't even know what's wrong. I hope that we go out there at full strength for this practice. There was no Sam Cosmi the last 2 days of practice, days 9 and 10 of training camp. There was no Andrew Wiley in days 9 and 10 of training camp practice. And there was no Brandon Coleman in day 10 of training camp practice. Keep that in mind. Now, Cosmi was dealing with an illness. Wiley's dealing with tightness. And we don't even know what the hell happened to Brandon Coleman and why he wasn't out there. All this shit we're talking about, and Coleman could not go in the joint practice for all we know. He could not make the trip. If he's sick or something like that, he could not make the trip. So hopefully we're healthy up front. Even if Wally can't go, I'm not tripping about that. Because again, it's more about getting to the starting blocks. You know, I'm not as concerned right now. You know, I kind of know what Wally is anyway, right? But I would love to have him out there. The more reps, the better, right? The more, the merrier. But at the end of the day, let's hope that everybody that's supposed to be out there is out there and they're ready to go and they're getting the reps that they need. They're getting the work that they need and they're succeeding out there and putting their best foot forward. So that is my list. Okay. So let me go over the list once more very quickly. My top 7 things that I'm looking for from this joint practice. Number 7, the Commanders' defensive line versus the Jets' offensive line. The Jets, much like ourselves, have revamped their offensive line in front of Aaron Rodgers, looking to protect, Aaron Rodgers and make sure that they keep him as upright as possible this year. So they have 2 new tackles, traded for Morgan Moses from the Ravens. They signed Tyron Smith. They have Elijah Vera Tucker, who's been there now, I think, 3 or 4 years. He's played really well at the guard position. And, the center position, they're doing things there. I think they have Joe Tipman probably there now. And I think they signed John Simpson in the offseason as well. Remember, they also drafted Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. So I expect him to be getting some reps at some point as well. So interested to see this revamped Jets offensive line against this revamped Commanders defensive line and how we fare against their group. If we are going to pride ourselves on the defensive side of the football, if this D-line is going to kind of lead the way, so to speak, of this defense being the catalyst for this team, let's see it. Let's see it. Let's hear about it. Number 6, Commanders running backs versus the Jets linebackers. The Jets have a really good core of linebackers led by C.J. Mosley and Quincy Williams. We've heard so many good things about our running backs this camp. Brian Robinson Jr. has looked great. He's been in phenomenal shape. He's excited about the role that's been carved out for him by Cliff Kingsbury. Same can be said for Austin Eckler. They've done great things in camp. Now let's see you do it against a different team. Let's see you do it against these Jets defenders. Let's see you in pass protection. Let's see you win one-on-one routes. Let's see you get out of the backfield, catch the football, separate against these guys. Let's see you run the football in between the tackles, outside, and be able to, make some things happen. So interested to see what these linebackers have to say. Number 5, Commanders wide receivers versus Jets cornerback. Look, it's no secret the Jets have some of the best defensive back play in the NFL. Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, Michael Carter II. Really good safeties as well. Jordan Whitehead was there last year. I don't know if he's still there this year or not. But just a good Jets secondary. We have question marks about the receiver position. We don't worry about Terry, but we worry about everything else after him. It's time for these guys to start stepping up, announcing themselves as help, right? We need help for Terry. Let's see if these guys can step up. Going to get a lot of man-to-man coverage, whether it's in indie drills, one-on-one individual drills against these guys, or team drills. You're going to get some one-on-one. You're going to get some man coverage. Take advantage of it. Separate. Make yourself an available target for Jaden Daniels. Win. Catch the football. Do the things that are going to help this team in the upcoming season. Number 4, Commanders interior offensive line versus the Jets interior defensive line. Arguably, the strength of this Jets defense is up front. They added Javon Kinlaw. They have Solomon Thomas. Obviously, they have Quinnen Williams, and they can get after it on the interior. Similar to us, they can get after it on the interior. We have a revamped interior offensive line featuring 2 new parts. We know what Cosme is. Tyler Biotish is here now, and so is Nick Allegretti. What are they going to do against the Jets' interior defensive front? I watched Hard Knocks last year. I've watched Quinnen Williams' career. I know what he's capable of. Last year in a joint practice versus Carolina, I watched Quinnen Williams single-handedly destroy the practice. Single-handedly destroy the practice, destroy the Panthers' interior offensive line, and wreck shop. I do not want to hear about that taking place. What I don't want to hear is Nikki Javala tweeting out, the Commanders cannot block Quinnen Williams. That is the 5th time he's been in the backfield. I don't want to read a tweet that says that. Nikki Javala put out a tweet 2 days ago after training camp practice number 9 when the defense dominated the offensive line. And she said it was a gif of a kid in a Power Wheel running over his brother, his little brother, probably was 2 years old. He's in the Power Wheel and he ran over his little brother. And she said, Commanders defensive line versus Commanders offensive line. And it was a Power Wheel running over, a little kid. It looked bad. I don't want to see another one of those tweets because Quinnen Williams had his way with the interior of this offensive line. Number 3, Commanders cornerbacks versus Jets wide receivers and A-Rod, of course. Aaron Rodgers is a maestro back there. He's got talent surrounding him. Garrett Wilson. Mike Williams was activated just today. Again, was this intentionally done to allow him to participate in the joint practice? I doubt it, but one can only hope that he's out there. Aaron Rodgers plus Allen Lazard equals trouble, right? Allen Lazard plus any other quarterback equals nothing, right? So Allen Lazard is now a problem again. Malachi Corley is a rookie they drafted out of Western Kentucky who can be problematic. So I'm interested to see what Rodgers plus his supporting cast can do against a group that we got a bunch of question marks about. How's Benjamin St. Juste going to fare? How's Emmanuel Forbes Jr. going to fare? How's Michael Davis going to fare? How's our rookie Mikey Sainristil going to fare? Who the hell is behind these guys anyway, right? What's Noah Igbenogany and James Pierre and, all of those guys going to do? We'll see, right? We'll see. Number 2, Jaden Daniels versus the Jets defense. I'm more concerned with the process. Just want to see if he can go out there and decipher what it is the Jets are doing and make the right decisions consistently over and over and over again. Not too concerned with the results necessarily. I would love for the results to be great, but I'm more concerned with the process because if the process is right, I know the results will come. I know the results will come. And then number 1, Brandon Coleman. Brandon Coleman. Left tackle. Again, first things first. Is he healthy? He did not practice in day 10 of training camp. Hopefully all is well there. He goes out there and he continues what he's been doing all camp long, essentially, which is dominate. It may not be as decisive as it has been throughout camp, but if they come back and they say, hey, considering that this was his first time going up against another team and it's a damn good Jets defense, all things considered, not a bad day for Brandon Coleman. I'll feel really good about that. I'll feel really good about that. So I digress. let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say, and then we will get out of here. And obviously, tomorrow, bright and early, I think the practice is supposed to start around like 10 o'clock, something like that in the morning. Generally, when you're on the East Coast, you try to start as early as possible because it's going to get hot, Now, we got the tropical storm on the East Coast that's coming through. I know it's going to be nasty. I'm glad that the joint practices aren't being held here because the weather isn't going to hold up, I don't think. But how far north is that going to go? Where's the storm coming from? I think it's coming from the south. So hopefully we get the practice in. Hopefully we get the game in, right? Because that tropical storm is pushing north. And if we're getting it today, that means, at some point, Friday or Saturday, they're probably going to get it. Last year we had to deal with that bullshit in the first preseason game. You remember we went to Cleveland and it was raining cats and dogs. Jerseys were soaked last year. I hope we don't have to deal with that shit again this time with the Jets. It's bad enough that that's one of the worst stadiums in football, I'm not going to say it. We don't need to add wet to a surface that's already not great to begin with, right? So let's just hope that the weather holds up for the joint practice and then again for the game, right? Anyway, I digress. David Brown, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, David Brown, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Writes, what up, Lou? What's up, Dave? Says, if Terry fails to get separation against the Jets, does that change your opinion that he is a wide receiver one? No. I watched Terry go up against them last year, and I thought he held his own last year. So Terry's a number one wide receiver. I'm convinced of it. So I don't worry about that's not a question that I ask anymore. I've always really felt that Terry was a number one. From the day he stepped in the league and he cooked Ronald Darby and got behind the Eagles defense for his first touchdown on the first possession of the game, and should have had another one in the early stages of the second half, and Case Keenum overshot him by like 5 yards when he was like 8 yards behind the defense. Excuse me. I've never really doubted Terry's ability to be a number one in this league. So that's not going to change. But is it going to be tough? It should be. Sauce Gardner is one of the best corners in football. Should be tough. But Terry's no pushover. I expect them to go to war, and I expect Terry to win his fair share of battles. I expect Sauce Gardner to win his fair share of battles. Same with DJ Reed. So I take my chances with Terry. I roll the dice with my guy. Feel good about him, and if he can't create separation against the Jets, so be it. It doesn't change how I feel about him. David Brown, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy David writes, as long as JD doesn't go 6 of 22 for 56 yards, no touchdown, and 2 interceptions, I'll be good. So I don't know if they'll actually be keeping tabs of how many passes he threw and yardage and all of that stuff. I don't think they'll be doing that, but I get the point that you're trying to make, which is as long as he's not absolutely horrendous, I'll be fine, right? We'll see what he ultimately does. Because again, they'll probably do red zone. So he might throw 3 touchdown passes in red zone work, right? You don't really keep tabs of statistics in practice necessarily. Usually we keep tabs of how many touchdown passes you threw. And, you rarely hear people say, well, the ball hit the ground 7 times today. They don't do that at practice. They say the ball barely hit the ground, right? Or, man, the ball hit the ground a lot today. A lot of incompletions. The ball was being sprayed all over the place. But we haven't heard that about him, So we'll see what happens. Ultimately, the narrative for me isn't going to really change all that much. will we have a different perspective of Jaden? Will some of us pump the brakes a bit if he goes out there and he struggles against this Jets defense? Sure. There'll be a lot of you some of you out there that'll be like, oh shit, maybe I do need to put the Kool-Aid down. Maybe I do need to sip slow. Maybe this isn't a 10, 11 win team. Because some of y'all waffle, right? Some of y'all are all over the place. Wherever the wind blows, that's where you go. But for the most part, I don't think there's anything that will force me to look at Jaden any different, because I've already told you there's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days. And he's a rookie, and there's going to be peaks, and then there's going to be valleys. And that's a part of the roller coaster ride that is going to be this 2024 season. And it's not just him, by the way. It's this entire team. It's a young team, right? It's a new team. It's a new staff. And so everything that's going on is essentially happening for the first time to this group. So with that said, expect mistakes. Expect, the highest of highs. If we go to Cincinnati and beat the Bengals, I would be shocked. I'm not going to say I wouldn't be shocked. I would be shocked, but I know Dan Quinn knows how to play against Joe Burrow. He's done it before. So could he do it again? Absolutely. Absolutely he could. They had more talent in Dallas on defense, though. So, I don't expect us to have the same amount of success that the Cowboys had against Joe Burrow 2 years ago when they held him to 17 points and won with their backup quarterback under center, right? Cooper Rush. But at the same time, I think I could see us winning a game like that, and that'll be like the highest of highs. And then the lowest of lows, you could lose to Carolina. You could get spanked by the Carolina Panthers, right? And again, who knows? I don't see us getting spanked by anybody this year, by the way. I think we're going to compete at a high level in every single game. And look, we might lose a game by 13 points. But in the fourth quarter, it was a one-possession game with, 8 minutes to go, and we were down 6. And then they had a touchdown drive and went up 2 scores and put the game out of reach. Then we ended up losing by 13. But we were in that game, right? I don't expect us to have many of those Thanksgiving Dallas games, Miami Dolphin games, the Buffalo game, which that was a close game. I mean, it was 16 points. I don't want to over-exaggerate. We were down. I always like to say, we were down 2 scores. You were down 16. Okay. 16 is technically 2 scores, but come on. It's really not 2 scores. It is, but it's not. But that one got out of hand quickly, right? So what I'm telling you is I see a lot of competitive games, and I see a lot of peaks. I see a lot of valleys. And so I'm baking all of that in, including Jaden. And this could be a valley here. This could be the first of many valleys this season for Jaden Daniels. Or this could be yet another peak. He's had a lot of peaks so far. The trajectory of his season right now is up, 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 up. This could finally be one of those times where it goes, phew. Guess what? Right after it, he can get back up, and he's back up to another peak, right? So we'll see. Whatever happens, I'm gonna be excited about Jaden Daniels in the preseason game on Saturday. I'm going to be excited for him in the joint practice next week with the Dolphins. And then hopefully he plays again in the preseason game against the Dolphins. And then after that, you can put him in bubble wrap. Come back, practice, put him in bubble wrap, get ready for week 1 against Tampa. Right? We'll see what happens. Christopher McLaughlin, my guy. Chris, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Chris writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Chris? Hope all is well with you and the family. Likewise, always appreciate you, man. Can't thank you enough for all you do for the Louie T Network. My guy Chris writes, 2 questions. 1 and 2. How concerned would you be if the O-line has a poor joint practice session And what point, if this were the regular season, would you make changes and why? So first things first, who's out there? Because if it's the same crew that we left Ashburn with in Daytona joint practice, then I know that the Jets are going to run ramshot over them, right? Yeah, Trenton Scott at right tackle, Michael Dieter at right guard, Cornelius Lucas at left tackle. Yeah, that group can get their ass whooped 10 times out of 10 against this Jets unit. So let's get it straight. Let's make sure that the right group is out. Now, if you're telling me we got our starters out there, Coleman at left tackle, Allegretti at left guard, Biotish at center, Cosme at right guard, and Andrew Wiley at right tackle. Now I like my chances a lot better than I did with the other group. Now, if that group, the group that we assume is going to be the starting offensive line, goes out there and gets their ass handed to them, yeah, that's going to be disheartening. I'm not even going to sugarcoat that. That's going to be pretty disheartening because I can't speak for any of you out there. There's a lot of you out there who have been adamant that the offensive line is going to be the undoing of this team this season. I have not been of that mindset. I've told you that I'm not as worried about the offensive line as you guys are because I think we have competent coaching this year. And I'm not talking about O-line Bobby Johnson. I'm talking about Cliff Kingsbury. And I think we have a guy that's smart enough to run the football. And Cliff Kingsbury, I think we have a guy that's smart enough to use the quarterback as a runner. Sam could have been used as a runner last year, and Eric Bieniemy just refused to do so, right? You don't need to run him a ton, just enough to keep the defense honest, just to make him a threat out there. The same thing I used to say with Scott Turner and Taylor Heineke. Heineke wasn't a great athlete, but he was a good enough athlete that if you used him as a runner from time to time, it'd give the defense something to think about. But Jaden is definitely an athlete and can run, and I think Cliff is going to use that like he did with Kyler Murray. And then I think he's going to utilize the quick pass game. Get the ball out of Jaden's hands quickly, alleviate some of that pressure off the offensive line, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that this offensive line is going to be solid this year. Not earth-shattering, not game changers, just solid. That said, if they go to New York or New Jersey and they wet the bed, that it's their first time out. So I am going to give them a bit of leeway, right? Just a little bit of, all right, I get it. But I'm going to start looking at them sideways like, uh-oh. Uh-oh. Could we really be in trouble here? Because I talked all that shit this offseason about, oh, this division doesn't have great pass rushers, and I'm standing on business. Micah Parsons is the only elite rusher in this division. Giants fans are flooding my timeline with a bunch of Brian Burns shit, and he's good. He's going to have to prove it to me here in this division. This ain't Carolina. This ain't Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Atlanta, none of that shit. It's a totally different division. He's going to have to come over here and prove it to me. And I don't know what the hell the Eagles are doing now. I don't know what the hell they call themselves doing, getting rid of Hassan Reddick. So I'm not worried about anybody in this division from a pass rusher standpoint other than Michael Parsons. But if we let the Jets run a ramshot over us, it could be a long season, and again, I wouldn't overreact, but if my confidence level is at 85%, it'd take a hit if you told me, man, the Jets dominated Coleman, Allegretti, Biotish, Cosme, and Wiley. I go from 85 down to like 60, 65%. Like it takes a serious hit. I'm not going off to where it's down to 40% and I'm like, critical mass. We got to go get somebody. Anybody heard from David Bakhtiari? I'm not going to be that guy. But I'm going to be on a much higher alert if that were to happen. And then you ask me if this were the regular season, at what point would you make changes? Honestly speaking, there's no changes to be made. Like I said already, everything you're going to do is going to be in-house at this point. So if Coleman isn't cutting it, Cornelius Lucas, you're up, right? If Wiley isn't cutting it, all right, Coleman, you go to right tackle, or Lucas, you go to right tackle, Coleman, you go to left tackle. Like, you'll just have to start playing musical chairs with the pieces that you already have in-house, right? Because you're not going to find a guy, more likely than not. And again, I'm aware that there are one or two pieces out there that may be able to help. But for the most part, you're not going to find anybody that's going to be able to come in here and immediately upgrade the position and all the while learning the offense, the terminology, et cetera, having the chemistry with the guy next to him. It's a lot to ask a guy to come in and pick it up just like that. That rarely happens in the NFL. At this point, the offensive line is what it is, and you're not really going to be able to upgrade. And I told y'all this before a bunch of times. You can't fix everything in one offseason. That's just the nature of the beast. We had a lot of things wrong with this roster, and they plugged a bunch of holes this offseason. So much so that I feel like we're going to be a competitive team. We were not for much of the season last year. We won 4 games. 2 of them we won in the first 2 games. So that means we won 2 out of our final 15 games. And in a lot of those games, we weren't even competitive. Never stood a chance. Never felt like we had a shot. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. But even with that said, there's still a lot of work to be done on this roster. Probably going to need 1 or 2 offensive linemen next year. Probably going to need 1 or 2 corners next year. Might need a receiver next year. Who's to say? We don't know. But we're definitely going to need 1 or 2 defensive ends or edge rushers next year. Like, this is far from a complete roster. Lots of work still needs to be done to it. That includes the offensive line. So, in the event we get to the season and the line is struggling, they're just going to have to figure it out. And again, if they're struggling up front, I put the onus on the staff to find ways to circumvent the offensive line. Look, you can do all of the stuff that I've talked about: run the football, quick game, this, that, and the third, misdirection, change the launch point of the quarterback, get him out of the pocket, don't keep him stationary, all these things to try to help the offensive line out. But at the end of the day, as John Com said on this very program, at some point, you're going to have to block the guy in front of you one-on-one. At some point, we're going to have to drop back, and you're going to have to protect for 3 seconds and give the quarterback a chance to throw the football. Can we do that? They better be able to do that. Or we're in a lot of trouble. And I don't think there's some magic wand you can wave in the middle of the season. I don't think there's any quick, fix solution out there. You're stuck with what you have, and you got to make the best of it. And whether you got to start scheming it up or you got to start shuffling the deck and putting other guys in there to try to figure out, how to, fix the bleeding or plug the dike or, whatever the case may be, that's what'll have to happen. But I think any solutions that this team will have this upcoming season will have to be in-house. I know that doesn't sound good, and it's not good. Let's just hope that the 5 guys that we put out there initially work, stay healthy, and we don't have to even explore what comes after, right? Ryan E., thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Ryan E. writes, "What up, Lou? What's going on, Ryan?" Says, "I want to hear how JD5 gets through his reads in practice. At the game when he can actually get hit, I want to see how well the O-line performs and how he handles an NFL rush with real contact. So that's what I'm talking about with practice in particular with the Jets is I want to know his process. I want to hear that his process was good. Just like you, that's why I feel like it is imperative that you play him in the preseason, because even in the joint practice against the Jets, he can't get hit. So there's still this false sense of security that, hey, if my first read's not open, if my second read's not open, if my third read's not open, I can hold it, and still get rid of the ball because I'm not getting hit. Well, I need that false sense of security to be removed so that he can understand the level of urgency that exists in the NFL. There were times where you would watch him at LSU where he's standing back there for 6-7 seconds at a time, just patting the ball, burping the baby. And I'm like, I get it. I mean, if they're not coming and they're dropping 8 and they're only rushing 3 and nobody's getting to you, yeah, you just stand back there and wait for somebody to eventually get open. But that's not how it works up here in the league, right? You don't have 7 seconds to throw the football. You barely got 3 seconds to throw the football in this league. So I just want that false sense of security to be removed, which it will be on Saturday. And I want to see how he does with that, because if this line isn't great, he's going to have to use his legs. Doesn't have to use them all the time in practice because he knows he's not getting hit. So he might scramble a little bit, but, look to throw. I've seen clips where he scrambled, picked up 5 or 6, run out of bounds, and he may have to do that. But just like you said, I want to see how the offensive line performs in a game setting, and I want to see how he adapts and adjusts to being live, right? Now you can be hit. So what are you going to do? Are you going to get rid of the football? Are you going to tuck it and run? What are you going to do? We're going to find out on Saturday. But first things first, let's see how the process works on Thursday during this joint practice. So that's the last super. So we'll get out of here. Tomorrow, obviously a big day, joint practice, Jets, Commanders. I'll be scouring social media, as will you, more likely than not. I'm going to check the Jets website. I advise you to do the same. Check the Jets YouTube channel to see if they're streaming the joint practices. I guess something's better than nothing. So the Ravens did it last year. Maybe the Jets will do the same this year. If not, just scour social media and see what you can get, right? And we'll go from there. And once once I've compiled enough information to come to you guys, I'll be at your doorstep with as much information as I can relay to you, and then we'll get ready for the preseason game. So with that said, you guys, get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow will be busy. It'll be Commanders joint practice. We have Patriots and Panthers, Giants and Lions preseason games tomorrow. So a lot of different things are going on. You'll see me after the Panthers and Patriots, because I'm assuming that we're going to see Drake May in that game. And I expect to see quite a bit of Drake May in that game, at least a quarter worth of him. If he's not starting and they still haven't put out their unofficial deputy, they have to. League mandated by tomorrow before their game. I'm assuming Jacoby Brissett's QB1. That's not a surprise to anybody. If that's the case, then Drake May should be getting out there and playing quite a bit. And if he does, because you already know what it is, just like we do with Christian Gonzalez and Emmanuel Forbes, we're going to do the same thing with Drake May and all the other quarterbacks that were taken after Jaden Daniels, comparing them, because we could have picked all of those guys and we didn't. We took Jaden Daniels. I think we did the right thing. I was a Drake May guy. I'm not going to sit here and act like I wasn't. And I still think Drake May is going to be really good in this league. But I said this a long time ago. If you were looking to have success in year one, Jaden Daniels was going to give you the ability to do that much faster than any of the quarterbacks. And that includes Caleb Williams, if you ask me. I think Jaden Daniels is more pro ready than Caleb Williams, Drake May, JJ McCarthy, all of those guys. Maybe not Bo Nix, maybe not Michael Penix Jr., even though I think he might be even more pro ready than Michael Penix Jr. But the floor was much higher on Jaden Daniels. And I was adamant about that. I think the ceiling, and I've said that, is higher for Drake May. Doesn't mean he's ever going to reach that ceiling. But I do think the ceiling might be higher. And Jaden Daniels could prove me wrong. And his ceiling could be way higher than I ever imagined. Whatever the case may be, I'll be watching the Patriots to find out what the hell Drake May has going on. So you'll see me for that. You'll see me for whatever goes on at the joint practice tomorrow and anything else under the sun. So I look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow. Y'all know what it is. Post up. Take command. Until next time, you guys have a good one. God bless. Good night.